Senator Kane. Senator Ernst, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much, General Brown, for being here today. And I want to thank your wife, Shireen, as well, for being here. We appreciate your support through the many, many years. General Brown, you've had a very distinguished career and have held many commands. And I want to distinguish between some of my colleagues. I know the burden of command was referenced, but I would state, having served as a low-level commander in our armed services, that it's not a burden to be a commander. It is a great honor and distinction, and I want to thank you for your service to our country. You are moving into a different position. I'll assume your confirmation, and I support your confirmation. I think you're the right person at the right time. If confirmed, you will be chairman at a time when threats to the nation are mounting while our resources are actually shrinking. We will be operating our Department of Defense under a constrained environment. And under those constrained budgets, we have to put our defense dollars towards smarter investments. And you, as Chief of the Air Force, have focused on modernizing our Air Force. I assume that you will continue the modernization process through the rest of our service branches. So, General, you'll inform investments across what we talked about, the iron triangle of modernization, force structure, and readiness. And so I am assuming there will have to be hard choices made and some trade-offs. So if you could you talk a little bit about your vision of modernizing our force?
Sure. Senator, I appreciate the question. And to your question, I've done kind of the same thing as a service chief. And if confirmed as a chairman, I will take that same approach. I've often talked about how we have to balance risk over time and look at capability and capacity. And because we can't just try to modernize completely at the risk of today's operations. At the same time, we can't maintain all capability for today's operations and not have the capabilities because of the threats we see forthcoming. And so between that, as you look at that iron triangle, it's the balance between those. And I really believe on analysis that we have to do. We can work emotion, but emotion doesn't work. It's really the analysis that we have to go through to be able to determine how we make those tough calls, and then we have a responsibility. I have a responsibility, if confirmed as chairman, to articulate what that risk might be for whatever choice we make. And then we've determined as a nation how we accept that risk or how we mitigate that risk. And again, this is where I think allies and partners play a key role in some of these areas and how we ensure and think about all the capabilities that we have available and how we might use those to best make the best decisions based on the resources that are provided.
No, thank you. I was going to ask about that, about mitigating the risk, and you're talking about that using allies, partners, but spreading out the risk over time. So I do appreciate that. During the office call, you also mentioned the constant demand signal that we've got from our global combatant commanders. And how would you strike that right balance between our near-term readiness and those future modernizations, including and accepting prudent risk?
Well, I've lived on both sides of the coin, serving as a deputy commander in the United States Central Command, but then also as a service chief. And the way I've always thought about this is we got to put all of the cards and all the details on the table and then have a conversation that is not tied to a particular position and figure out what's best to do for the joint force, what's best to do for all the combatant commands, because there's going to be some give and take as we do this. And that's where those dialogue to me are very important. And it's really about dialogue. There's many things we can agree on, and those are the things we need to move forward on and continue to debate the things that we don't necessarily see eye to eye on. But at some point, you have to make a decision. And I think my role as if confirmed as the chairman, is to provide my best advice to the Secretary of Defense and the President on how we make those decisions, and again, articulate where I see the risk of whatever decision or whatever path or options we do lay out.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And in just my last few moments, I do want to talk about my concern that the military is being dragged into politics. And if confirmed, how would you keep the military out of the political limelight and focused on the mission of our Department of Defense?
Well, the first thing I do is set a personal example. that I would stay nonpartisan and nonpolitical in how I approach the position of chairman if confirmed. And that I set that same expectation throughout the force, that we need to stay out of politics and stay nonpartisan, nonpolitical, and at the same time advocate that our civilians leadership does not bring us into political situations. Part of that is the dialogue that we have to have, and we have to maintain a standard as part of the force, and that's what's expected of the nation, for us as military members, to support the Constitution of the United States and stay out of politics.
Thank you very much, sir. I look forward to supporting you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Senator Ernst. Senator Manchin, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And General